Hail and welcome everyone, it is Vathorn, and I'm coming at you again with another video. This video is just going to be a little introduction to terms. It's going to be just a primer on Norse terms, because I'm going to be using them a lot, and I don't want you just sitting there going, what? Also, I just want to note that I'll be making really extensive videos about some of the concepts that I am presenting in these videos. And I have my definitions over here so I can read to you the book definition, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit, just to give you a little taste, maybe pique your interest. So here we go. The first term that I want to present to you is asatru. It's probably something you should hear. Asatru is literally faith in the Aesir. It's a reconstructionist Norse religion based on the Norse cultures and customs. Most of you are probably aware of this term, but that is literally faith in the Aesir. The next term is vanatru. Vanatru literally means faith in the Vanir. It's a somewhat less used term, meaning those who wish to focus their worship strictly on the Vanir. That leads me to my next two terms. The Aesir are one tribe of gods. They can be a term for all of the gods. There's a little bit of history involved with that, and I'm going to give that later. Its partner term is also Vanir. The Vanir are a specific tribe of gods, of which little is known, that are primarily focused on earth, fertility, prosperity, abundance, more material matters. We really only know Njord, Freya, and Freyr are of the Vanir. There's not much known. The next term I'm going to use is Fornsaid. Fornsaid is literally the elder way. It's actually another religion that's based on the Germanic culture and practices. I believe it started in Sweden. It's a little less known than asatru, so I might be incorporating that terminology in, so I would like you to be aware of it. Also, the word forn can also mean sacrifice. It's another word for a ritual. The next term I want to use is Aesinya, or Aesignor. Those two terms mean goddess or goddesses. The next term I'm going to use is Alf and Alfar. Alf literally means elf, or elves. These are seen in many regards, sometimes as nature spirits, other times as male ancestral spirits. They are known to bring about good harvests, they're known to bring about good health, they're also known to bring about pain and sickness and blight. Working with them is a very interesting practice. It's kind of like interacting with the spirit world in most other religions. The partner term to that is Disir. Disir are sacred women. This can usually refer to the Valkyries, to the goddesses, and to your female ancestral forces. Most of the time when I use the term Alfar and Disir, I'm talking about my ancestors. The next word you're going to need to know is Jotun. Jotun is a generally antagonistic term for giants. Giants are not seen in a very friendly way in Norse mythology, even though some of the gods are actually of giant kind. It's just an interesting relationship. They're also seen as natural forces in modern practice. The next term is the Prose Edda. It's also known as the Younger or the Snorri Edda. It's a collection of tales, stories, and myths written down by Snorri Sturluson. It is divided into three sections. Gylfaginning, which is the tricking of Gylfi, which establishes most major mythological associations. Skaldskaparmal, the language of poetry, which is a poetic manual, and the Hadatal, which is also a poetic manual. It's the list of versed forms. Its partner book is the Poetic Edda. The Poetic Edda is also called the Elder Edda because it is much older than the Prose Edda. It's a collection of poetic myths and stories from all around Iceland and the Germanic lands in general. It's probably the most complete and largest repository of mythological knowledge that we have for Norse paganism. And I'm going to do a video on book recommendations so you can see the translations that I recommend for these, because there are many different translations and many of them leave out some things or include things others don't. So it's just a fun fact. Next, I'm going to bring up the concept of the 9 worlds. The 9 worlds, I'm going to do a whole video on, a whole video series probably. but they are Niflheim, which is the world of ice, Muspelheim, the world of fire, Asgard, the world of the gods' home, Midgard, the land of humans, Svartalfheim, which is the land of the dark elves, which are also dwarves, Jotunheim, where the Jotuns dwell. I hate pronouncing this. I normally just call it Alfheim, but it's Ljos Elfheim? I can't pronounce it. Anyway, it means light Elfheim. It's just basically to make sure that one is distinct from Svartalfheim. And then you have the realm called Hel. It's spelled with one L, as you see in front of you right now. Yes, it is where the goddess Hel lives. It is where some souls end up. It is not considered like hell. And the last world is Vanaheim, where the Vanir live. That isn't even strictly the case necessarily, because most of the time they're in Asgard when you see them anyway, but who cares? The next term that kind of goes along with that is Yggdrasil. YGG. Fun thing. And actually translates literally to Odin's steed, Ig being one of his epithets and his bynames. And it's the world tree. It's the arrangement of the worlds. That's how it was seen in the Norse cosmology. And the next thing I want to talk about is the term Ragnarok. Ragnarok is like the Norse end of the world, the Norse apocalypse. The 9 worlds get all destroyed and all the gods are like dead. It's pretty major. And so you might hear me reference that concept. The next thing I want to talk about are the 9 noble virtues. The 9 noble virtues are like an honor code, if you will, that are seen as good things in a Norse practice. They are courage, truth, honor, fidelity, perseverance, self-reliance, discipline, hospitality, and industriousness. I incorporate all of those things on my path and in my life, and I think it's just good for everyone to follow. The next term I will use is Sheed, is how I've heard it pronounced. It's also Sade, I've heard it pronounced, which is the shamanistic magical practices of the Norse. Oftentimes, this is associated with more feminine individuals. You didn't see a lot of male practice this, but then again, Freyr practiced it, so it isn't all put away like some people want to make it out to be. The next word is spy, or spay, and that's foretelling the future and prophecy. Again, another branch of magic. The next word is Galder, which is magical songs or chants. Spells are Galder. The next term is Bloat, which is a blessing and sacrifice ritual, and it's probably the most common type of ritual that is performed in a Norse practice. It normally involves giving of mead or other alcohol or liquids to the gods, ingesting some yourself and giving it to the land, returning it. And then its partner ritual is called a sumbel. And the sumbel is a group ritual that is a series of toasts to the gods, boasts of your deeds, and oaths that you're making in front of everyone and around them. And that's really an interesting concept because the Norse have a very interesting way of thinking about fate, if you would consider that, which leads me to my next term. My next term is Wyrd, W-Y-R-D, and that is the idea of fate, or chance even. It's kind of a little bit murkier than that because we're thinking about it in a very Greek organized way, and it isn't that way, but I'm going to go into all of the kind of subtleties about Wyrd in a different video. That leads me to Orlog, which is the primal layer, or the primal law, literally translated. These are seen as the choices that you make and the oaths that you enter into and how those affect your fate. That's also partnered with Hamingja, which is basically the concept of luck. Again, a little deeper, going to go into it in another video. And then you have the idea of Ond, which is breath. It is literally like the breath of life inside of you. And the last term that I have for you is the Norns. The Norns are basically the fates from Greek mythology in a Norse context. They are Erd, which deals with the past, the primalness. Verdandi, which is the present, it is that which is becoming. And then Skuld, which is kind of like into the future. It's actually like what should happen, the consequences that should be coming. That is your Skuld. And they are interesting in that they don't actually decide how you die or when you die, like that you think about the Greeks. It kind of works in a totally different fashion, and I'm going to have a whole video on that. So those are the most important Norse terms that I'll be throwing about, and I didn't want you just literally swimming in a sea of chaos and not understanding what I was saying. And like I've said, now you have a little primer, and you're probably super confused and super wanting some direction and help, and I'm going to be giving that to you because I have many, many videos planned. I have a whole series of lists and all these things that will touch on these concepts and will heavily reference them. I want you to just keep these things in mind as you move forward and watch my videos, and I will see you when I see you next. So, blessed be everyone.